Welcome back in, everybody. We've been doing this every Monday evening at 7 p.m. The goal of this is kind of like asset pitching with Asset Dash. So Asset Dash is, an app which has been working really well with the community. They basically allow people to connect in all of their different holdings. So whether that's your stocks, your crypto, your NFTs, basically you can connect it all in and it'll track it all for you on a daily basis. For your NFTs, it tracks the floors, both on ETH and Solana. For your, stocks, I have a growth portfolio. I have a Roth IRA. I have this. And we basically were like, this is a great opportunity to do different asset class pitching, right? So we bring in people who are experts in areas like crypto and NFTs and, stocks more. And we basically have each one of them do a different asset that they are pitching and saying, hey, here's why I like this. Maybe it's long term, maybe it's short term, whatever it is, but it's a pitch on a different asset. So with that being said, we have already a few panelists in here tonight. So we have Mel and Vegas, where each can both be pitching stocks. I believe Mel's doing CCJ and Vegas is doing NEO. And then we have Tyler with NFTs Anonymous, who is going to be pitching actually ApeCoin, which is the big new, out there crypto that's been going around. And then Decade Investor is going to come in. I think he's pitching a crypto also. And then I think one other person was going to pitch NFTs. Oh, and we have Jack also, who just came in, and he is going to be pitching a stock. So Jack, you're here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jack? Okay, Jack, I know you're on a busy schedule. I know your schedule's tight. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go now and pitch your asset for the
Sure.
evening?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. I appreciate you making the time. We're doing a thing for our wedding in June. So it's a can't miss type of thing. I appreciate you putting me first.
Gosh, man, all you.
Sure. So, a lot of people are relatively familiar with, value investing and owning things that I think are highly valuable. And there's a company that was private for a long time that, merged with another company and now is one of the leading, in my opinion, leading Earth data companies that has quite a attractive both data moat and also physical, infrastructure moat in the Earth data field, and it's Planet Labs. So the symbol is PL. What attracted me to them was that I watched the SkySat launch a few years ago, and I remember watching that launch and looking at the specs. And I worked in spectroscopy for a couple of years, and so I found the bands and kind of use cases for that particular setup. And that was about that eventually became a constellation of about 100 satellites from SkySat over the years. And they ended up merging with SkySat a while ago. So the way you could think about Planet Labs is that it was initially a group of scientists that they put into a garage and asked them, hey, do you guys think that you can image the Earth every single day? And how would that be done? If you could do it and how you would do it, figure it out. That is pretty much the culmination of the technical expertise that this company has, for one. And so that's, first advantage to market. I see that as know-how, I see it as intellectual property, and I see it as scientific learning that no one else in the Earth data field is going to have. So talent, number one. Number two is the infrastructure. These are the satellites themselves. They're up to about 240 total constellation satellites, all with relatively similar capabilities. The Super Doves that were put out recently have slightly higher, spectrum of bandwidth and a few extra capabilities. And so what that indicates to me is that this company has gotten very comfortable with launches. They have a multi-year deal with SpaceX for their launches exclusively. And it also tells me that you can think of their satellites like iPhone iterations, where they're going to be constantly tweaking in multiple modes these satellites and what they're capable of relative to what their customers are asking for. And so being the first to market with that particular model and the cost that it takes them to do so, I think is a very unique proposition for me. The last thing I wanted to point out was their structure is highly accretive for insiders and owners over long periods of time. So when you look at their lockup schedule, I think they have a few million warrants coming up in December, and then maybe 11 million in a few weeks. But outside of that, you've got almost a calendar year until anybody of relative size on the inside can sell. And so that also tells me they have strong hands as ownership in the business, which is something that I like to see. So they went public. I forgive me, I'm out right now, but I don't have the metrics in front of me. They must be over $1 billion entity. The enterprise value is probably somewhere around $800 or $900 million. And the way that I would say it is if they're doing 130 million in revenue today, and that Earth data market is going to expand substantially. And the reason that is because as you see regulatory environments, banking environments, as well as international communities trying to measure and monitor all of these individual data points in terms of climate science, as well as regulatory requirements for businesses, whether it be their life cycle assessment, their carbon footprint, their individual contributions to mitigations of climate change. When you think about construction companies and erosion, and I mean, I can go on forever about the individual details of these things, but I really wanted to try to keep my pitch broad enough to let everyone know that this is a first mover advantage in a 0 to 1 market, which is an Earth data market that didn't really exist to the same extent. The 0 to 1 nature of it is that it's scanning every single day and relaying that information back to Earth and then feeding that into AI and machine learning to try to give valuable insights. That is the 0 to 1 that I view as Planet being the first two. Satellogic is a close second. And of course, you have Maxar with pretty impressive capabilities. But it costs both of those entities a lot of money to launch their satellites. Satellogic says they're going to bring their costs down to almost a tenth of Planet's. I'll believe that when I see it. But my basic back of the envelope math tells me they're going to earn 130 minimum per year, which, you put a growth rate on that, let's say 35%, 30%. And that doesn't include the Vanderstat acquisition that went through. And then you add on the cash that they hold on the balance sheet, probably 450 to 500 million after the transaction. And then you model that out to a few years, and their gross margins are probably in the range of 50 to 70%. When they're matured, it could get higher than that, but as of now, that's typically where they sit. You can see a really easy case where this thing could be $1 billion floor and probably a $5 to $10 billion ceiling. And so, it's one of my favorite assets to own. I talk to the management probably every month, which is, that makes a difference to me. When I call, they answer. When I have questions, they get back to me. So the rapport with them is high quality. And that's what I think. I think, post SPAC, they had a little bit of tough time in terms of share count, as everything else in the market did. But you've noticed that they've kind of started flagging sideways. And I think that most of the pain is done here. And since you don't have a tough lockup schedule coming up, where you have a lot of liquidity coming out from the market relative to other SPAC deals, I think that provides you a little bit of cover. So, I think they announced earnings. They probably have a few things in their pocket. I know they're working on multiple contracts that are in the final stages with very, very noticeable and attractive names. Whether they can say those names is neither here nor there, but I would tell you to think of top tech companies that can use this data to leverage their own platforms to improve their performance. And so, that I would think of somebody like a Palantir or a Microsoft or a U.S. Department of Defense or Department of Energy in terms of scale. And so those contracts alone could be 50 to hundreds of millions of dollars recurring over 10 to 15 year periods. So I don't think I missed anything. I guess I'll say that's really all that I had. If there's any questions or comments, I'm always happy to address them. Anyone who wants to talk Planet, you can easily tag me on Twitter or DM me, and I'm more than happy to talk about it anytime. So,
Are you seeing institutional interest in it?
yes.
Okay, has that kind of heated up down here?
So I can let me think for a moment. I have to think like what I can say. So all right. Oh man. Who cares? So institutional ownership has increased over the last couple of weeks. I can tell you that the firm that I'm particularly interlinked with also showed a very high interest. I could tell you that the average appetite in the institutional realm has been for 500,000 to a few million shares of this over the last 2 months. So I think the appetite for it has been much higher than when it first SPACed. But I could also tell you that a lot of things are happening behind doors that are doing attractive financing in terms of shares for contracts. So you'll see earnouts. You'll see earnouts from institutions for shares in high amounts around the time of release of things to buoy the share price. So that's all I can mention about that. If I was in front of my terminal, I could give you more detail. I apologize. I'm not home.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. And last question, because I know that you're pretty busy. We have Planet, of course, competing in the Market Madness tournament. And we have a lot of people that are going to be talking about their assets in the Market Madness tournament tonight. In fact, most of the speakers do have an asset in there. If anyone who hasn't seen this, just click into my pinned tweet. This is a way that you can easily, takes about 5 minutes to enter. It is a play for $10,000 to the winner. We are going to have full-on brackets, and here I'll pin this up top too. So Planet, big first-round matchup here against GME, coming in as a 12th seed against 5 seed GME. How do you feel about this matchup? How would you go about convincing people to vote for Planet here in a social sentiment-based tournament?
So I think it's good. That's a very underdogish, matchup, and there's no denying that. What I would tell people is that if you look at both of those and the peak of GME, I think is behind it. I think the peak of Planet is on its way. And so, I think GME is a very high social network, meme type of play. But I think that those days are behind it. I think it's more of the dog days of the GME crowd, which will give people a stale taste in their mouth. And I think that looking at Planet relative to GME, you've got a lot more upside that's unrealized in a fundamental business that has a lot of growth. It's not relying on people in certain sections of the market, and I think you have a really better business case to make an argument for it. And so I think both of those things could actually make Planet a little more attractive, and it makes the people talking about it a little bit more tangible in terms of like what you're buying. And so I find that is really attractive. I think the underdog is Planet, but I love that positioning, and I think I think there's a little bit of a surprise in the works.
Awesome, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Good luck with the wedding rehearsal. Appreciate you hopping on tonight.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you for the time. Any other questions from your audience?
Evan, you got any questions about Planet?
I do enjoy Planet. It's honestly a pretty good stock. I actually pitched it to one of my friend's dads, so I'm excited for see it. I mean, my question would be $110, but that's not a serious question. I kind of my thought on this process. It may be a long-winded one, but I see the direction of the industry kind of going to where it's easier to launch satellites. So, like, my thought would be is like the moat for Planet Labs I see right now is that lead in the satellites. So, like, what does that kind of look like going forward? What does that moat look like? Is it them expanding it, continuing, or is it kind of everyone catching up with more technology?
So I view that, so that moat has to do with it's a first mover advantage for one, which is all about time. If you need data for satellites, you needed it yesterday. And so the people that are going to start launching satellites for the remainder of 2022 are already behind. And the people that need that data are already negotiating for that data package with whoever has that data. And so for the foreseeable future, at least till the end of the calendar year, it's highly likely that Planet will have an upper hand in those negotiation tables, for one. And then for the constellation launches with competition, I would tell you that the cost to space, even if it moves down, the cost of their existing satellite is nothing. And so that will introduce operating leverage for Planet that doesn't exist for other businesses. And so when you're talking about a SaaS platform and you have operating leverage within a calendar year, let's say, or today, for their business to get revenue that doesn't cost them anything for customer acquisition, that is a unique thing that no other satellite business that's out there is going to have. And so that, I think, is the difference, because the margin will show up sooner. And then the cost, like let's say Satellogic puts up the cost at a tenth of what Planet does. They still have to launch hundreds of satellites to compete. And so it kind of erodes that economic benefit for them, even if they make it cheaper. And I think, to your point, the cost of satellites launching for SpaceX or whoever may launch them, it may move as well. But there may be a day where Planet doesn't have to launch anything. Each year, they only have to replenish a fraction of their entire fleet. And so if another company has to launch, for example, 20 to 50 satellites, Planet in that calendar year may only need to launch 5 or 10. And so that is a big cost savings for Planet. and their driver to launch satellites isn't from a necessity standpoint. It's from a keeping our lead standpoint. And so they're not going to feel under the gun to say we need these 15 satellites for X, Y, and Z contract, because it's likely that the improvements that they already have embedded in their existing constellation would likely be enough to cover any new business that they need. And if not, then they need to redesign a satellite to go up ASAP. But then that's the management's job, right? Is to stay ahead of that curve and to make sure that they don't fall behind the 8 ball. So I mean, to give you a perspective, I would equate SkySat and Planet Labs to Tesla designing EVs before everybody else, only because this group of individual scientists from NASA and SpaceX and everywhere else were very early in wanting to do this. And they didn't do it because they wanted to go public to the market. They did it because they genuinely wanted to see if this could be done and if they could make a valuable entity out of it, not for Wall Street, but for society. And I mean, that's it's an added thing about Planet, but in my historical context, those businesses typically keep their lead and they get operating leverage very early. And those two things means that Wall Street can give them a very hefty multiple, 10, 15 times multiple. So, I mean, I don't know what it's at now. It might be at 4.5 times or 5 times 22's revenue. But that to me is inadequate.
Perfect. That answer for you, Evan? All right. I think we're going to keep it rolling here. Jack, really good to have you on. Excited that you're backing PL. Have a good one, and we'll chat with you more this week.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Tyler, let's hear from yourself as well as King Blackboard, who we were able to get on here, which is awesome. And excited to hear about ApeCoin, who a couple people in my timeline are tweeting that they think might be at a discount right now.
Yeah, for sure. So I brought King Blackboard up here because I'm going to take a little bit more of an organic approach at this as far as the philosophy behind Bored Ape Yacht Club, Yuga Labs, and ApeCoin and its DAO. And then King Blackboard, who is more of an astute investor than myself, both in the Web3 but also in the traditional space. I think
I've been miscast for this role.
What was that?
I've been miscast for this role. Please continue.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. But with that said, I think that between the two of us, we'll be able to provide some great information as to why this is something that the at-large space should be considering, not just the Web3 community. So with that said, most people by now are familiar with Bored Ape Yacht Club. Both myself and King Blackboard minted the project, and so we've got to really see it from its origin stages, how that community has developed, how the team behind the project, Yuga Labs, has also developed, and a lot of the more recent developments and how that has had an impact on the overall sentiment for the community, for the brand, and for everything that they're developing. So let's see. Besides having multiple airdrops that provided incredible value just because of the relationship or the emotional attachment that's been established with this collection of NFTs, right? It's very unique in its standing. That's why we see the floor price so high. Definitely modeled off of its predecessor, CryptoPunks, which recently it acquired the IP for, which, if you ask me, is extremely bullish for Yuga Labs as far as what they want their role or what they want their reputation to be in the Web3 NFT space. So as a result, ApeCoin follows soon after, and what ApeCoin, in my opinion, now represents is a belief in all of Web3 and NFTs. This is the symbol, the quote-unquote poster boy of Web3. And so I think that what we've seen happen is there's been not only a lot of organic Web3, community reaction or, embracing of Yuga Labs, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and now ApeCoin. But in addition, we've seen it from traditional investors as well as, celebrities, athletes, everyone alike. And I think that we're only going to see that exponentially increase at this point, because there is at least some sort of relationship with MoonPay, and MoonPay is providing a white glove service for celebrities and others of their caliber to obtain these digital assets. Many of those have yet to be revealed. They're currently holding on to, I believe, approximately 20 Bored Apes. But in addition to that, we have seen Snoop Dogg as a big example that has been using the IP that has been granted by Bored Ape Yacht Club for his own projects, and that has definitely started to go past just the Web3 community as well. Same thing with Rich the Kid and a few other, entertainers and musicians that are using the Bored Ape licensing, their IP from their Bored Apes in order to further the exposure for that community. So someone mentioned GME earlier. I think just based off, when we think of meme coins, when we think of that, Wall Street bets type culture, that I don't see how they wouldn't want to get behind something like this, just because, well, yes, I understand the whole like crypto bro sentiment that NFTs are a scam and that, everyone has their opinion about that. But when you look at what has already been developed, what's already been proven as far as what this project, what this brand has provided back to the community, even financially, I mean, that makes GME pale in comparison to the life-changing stories. And I can speak that from personal experience, participating in both at one point, still, of course, being a Bored Ape Yacht Club holder of both the digital assets, but also the Ape Coin. The last thing I'll say about the Ape Coin before I hand it off to King Blackboard is what this allows for is, with the Ape Coin introduction, it's also a governance token, and we've seen that before prior as well. But a lot of these governance tokens are built off of vaporware, and there isn't really much development or substance behind them. So what are you really governing? Whereas this, there is already, in my opinion, a proven product that is only growing as far as its acceptance, beyond, like I said, the Web3 crypto space. And that this governance token is going to have tremendous value because it's leading to a lot of it is going to spark and it's going to enable a lot of real world action and initiatives and relationships to take place that I think are going to only further this opportunity. King Blackboard, do you want to kind of speak to more the fundamentals and the technical analysis of ApeCoin?
Sure. I can jump in. So, I think it's important to understand like what ApeCoin is and who issued it. So Yuga Labs is the company behind Bored Ape Yacht Club, and Yuga Labs put together a strong group of DAO members at the ApeCoin DAO, and they make up the governance panel. And the coin was actually issued from the ApeCoin DAO. Alexis Ohanian is definitely a standout member, the creator of Reddit, on this panel. And how they started this off, it's 1 billion tokens. So there's going to be 1 billion ape coins. They did a nice and easy kind of math here, so you can figure out valuations pretty quick. One thing that I really like with the structure is that the coin unlocks over time. So the market didn't get flooded with 1 billion coins. You have about 170 million in circulating supply right now, and about 150 million of those were unlocked for claim to Bored Ape and mutant holders. So most of the supply is controlled by the ape holders, at least very initially. And then the apes were able to put together a organized rollout campaign so that this wasn't just traded on the DEX. This made it to all the centralized exchanges, all the high volume players, Gemini, Coinbase, Qcoin, FTX. So everybody actually has this, and there's trading pairs with Ape and USDT. And obviously, when you put these on centralized exchanges, this just gives anybody and everybody the opportunity to get involved. So this token is going to be both a governance token, so you'll be able to vote on proposals, and then this is also going to be a utility token. So some of the proposals that are already up include something like staking. So I would assume that the staking proposal is going to pass. So you'll be able to unlock additional ApeCoin tokens for staking just your ape coins, and then you'll also be able to stake your apes and your mutants to also unlock additional coins. So there's just a lot more opportunity for people to want to hold, and where the Ape DAO goes from here is going to be interesting. Again, there's a lot of heavy hitters on the panel, and I do think it is very well run. If you want to see more about that, it's apecoin.com. You can go there and really read through a lot of the information. It's very well curated. So I think the more exciting part, besides the being part of the ApeCoin DAO, why to hold the ApeCoin, is the utility side. And a lot of things are unconfirmed, but there's a ton of leaks. So one thing that I think is pretty critical to know is about 10 days ago, the Apes put out that with Animoca Brands, they were going to be putting out something big, something huge. And to get involved, they needed you to KYC. They kept it, pretty much in the dark. They didn't want to actually tell you what it was. They got a lot of blowback. So I think they leaked it. So short answer is there was a sweet video that happened over the weekend, and it demonstrated basically the apes chilling, and then all different kind of universes and action happening around it. And you can basically pull it all together that the apes are building with Animoca Brands a interoperable with various other NFT projects metaverse. So they are building a metaverse, and that's really exciting because it is something that they're bringing other collections involved. They already have a ton of their own IP that they're able to bring in. So they have now entered the Decentraland and the Sandbox competitor. So what does that mean for the Ape token? So it's reasonable to assume, again, also leaked, there's going to be a 200K land plot sale, public sale. Expect 30K of those lands go into the apes and the mutants and the OG apes. And then the 170K is going to be a public land sale. Anyone that filled out the KYC is going to have the opportunity to Genesis mint these plots of land. And in my opinion, this is a very strong opportunity to get on the ground floor of, Yuga Labs project. It's not, you're not buying into the Bored Ape Yacht Club, you're buying into the Yuga Labs metaverse. They're doing it in stages. So the first stage is the 100K land plots, 30K go into the owners, so 70K land plots. And I think that's going to be happening by the end of this month.
You want me to blow your mind?
Go ahead. Sure, blow me.
Jesus. So I had to interrupt you just because you kept on saying Animoca. It's Animoca. Animoca's co-founder is also one of the founders of the DAO. The reason why I interrupted you is because I was looking at Animoca just to, kind of see what could be added to this conversation about it. Yes. One of Animoca's subsidiaries is the Sandbox.
Yeah, I did actually catch that too. So I mean, that just goes to show
massive.
They're competing with themselves in a sense.
Yeah, as far as how much liquidity has already been invested into the Sandbox, as far as all of the large brands and big personalities and names and influencers that have already invested in the platform, either with land or an investment in the token itself. I see a lot of comparisons. I see a lot of synergy where could Animoca just be kind of possibly, you know what I mean? Like maybe they're transforming that. Maybe that is why this all hasn't been quite announced yet, is because this is a much bigger play than what meets the eye. And I'm not trying to speculate too much, but we do know that there was a leak put out there about land, and there's already a significant amount of Sandbox land that already exists. So are they just going to represent and operate both of these metaverses simultaneously, when in that leaked pitch deck it said we want to make all other metaverses obsolete? And it also just kind of goes to my sentiment for Yuga and ApeCoin as an extension of that, kind of as the community, right? That governance token behind that. the concepts of Yuga Labs and what they're developing, it feels like the scale of it is at least that of the other subsidiary of Animoca being Sandbox.
Yeah, and that, I think I want to agree with you right off the bat. That's what has me super bullish. Is I think that they have the IP, the know-how, the funding, the expertise, and the team to really build out the number one metaverse. I mean, there's going to be multiple metaverses, right? But the apes have all the opportunity here to build out one of the best, interoperable with other NFT projects. And at the cornerstone is the public land sale, because Sandbox had a public land sale. They sold in the sand denomination. So in order to buy land from Sandbox, you had to trade out into sand first. I am anticipating that the apes will require you to trade into ape in order to buy the public land sale. And with the short supply that's already on the market, I think that you want to board that rocket ship before that short-term catalyst opens. And then just on a broader long-term kind of trajectory, if this game is fun and if this game is successful, the in-game currency, everything is going to be transacted in the ape coin. So the demand is really there just for this one metaverse piece on the utility side. And then you stack that with BAYC is going to do their merch drops that are only going to be purchasable in ape. There's going to be multiple play to earn games that are going to be that you're going to require the ape coin. Benji Banana is the first one. There's at least two more that were announced. So when you start putting the whole thing together, there's a ton of utility governance, and then it's just a really good meme, right? I mean, we've seen Shiba and Dogecoin rise to where they rose with no utility, just the meme. I don't see any reason why the apes, the king of all NFTs, can't meme their way to the top, in addition to having all those use cases and really battle those tokens. So I'm bullish on ape token, and I think this is a really good opportunity to get involved in the token now, early, only a few days in, and an opportunity to get involved in the public land sale that should be happening within 10 days. I think that's the NFT mint of the year for 2022.
Awesome. I think you guys made a fantastic case there. A lot of people, have interest around ApeCoin. Hopefully they'll come back and listen to this one. That was perfect. I would love to do like a full space on it now, but I have like other people that I have to get to also. And I know that you guys have limited time. So we'll have to
bring us back. We're more than willing.
We're going to do another King, Tyler. Y'all are both kings in my book. Love having you on. Thank you so much.
Yeah. My man. Be well. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Wolfman out.
There we go.
Appreciate it, guys.
Love to see it. Okay. So real quick before we move into the next one, I want to take a second to, again, for anybody that is new to this, we've been doing this every Monday night. Again, the idea is investors are more diversified than ever nowadays, right? We hold so many different types of assets and we hold them in so many different places. Just myself, I have 3 stock portfolios. I have a growth portfolio, penny stock, and a Roth. I have numerous NFTs. I have NFTs on Solana. I have NFTs on Ethereum. I also have a bunch of different cryptos. I have staked cryptos. I've got my Ethereum wallet. I've got a bunch of different other blockchains. I've got stuff on Luna, all over the place. So it's really difficult for me to know, hey, what's my net worth at any given time? How much are my NFTs worth? How much is my portfolio worth? And I like to keep up to date with these things. I think it's important because sometimes what will happen to people is they'll put money into some crypto, right? And you don't look at it for a while, and then you don't realize, hey, that thing dropped 70%. And I probably should have gotten out 10, 20% down, but I didn't even look at it, right? Or maybe this NFT was going down the hill or something like that. And that's why I love using Asset Dash. So Asset Dash, I don't know if we have any of your stuff pinned up in the top of the space, but again, they've been co-hosting this with me. They were voted the #1 product of the day on Product Hunt. There is a ton, and the app's completely free. That's the best part. So the link is in their bio. I'm going to try to post a couple things up top so people can go ahead and check this out. If you want to post anything up top, Matthias, definitely go ahead and check it. But I just went ahead and threw up a couple. I threw up the Pounding the Table one as well. Again, this is just a really game-changing app for anybody that wants to have an eye on all their assets all the time. Matthias, anything you want to add on to that?
No, thanks. think that was an awesome explanation. But yeah, we have the broadest set of integrations in the App Store. So, everything from Ethereum to Solana, Flow for NBA Top Shop, all your stocks, your bank balance, the list goes on and on. So definitely download it, give it a spin, let us know what you think. We're about to announce that we just added support for Coinbase Pro as well. We already have Coinbase, Binance, FTX International. So, our focus is whatever you invest in, we want to make sure that we support it. And so far, the feedback on the app has been great. So yeah, definitely check out the pin post, download it, and feel free to shoot us a DM if you have any questions.
Perfect. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is for anyone that's in the audience, if you try this out and you're like, hey, here's a feature I think would be cool to have in this, the team's super responsive. A lot of people said, hey, my NFTs aren't worth floor value, right? They're worth more than floor. So they added in a multiplier. So now you could have in your wallet a multiplier of what your value was on a basis. They also, people are like, I want to have in like my private equity investments. I want to have in this different thing. So you can track all your assets, not just stocks, crypto, NFTs. It's just those are the most that are pitched. So again, shout out to Asset Dash app. Click in there, throw them a follow, and we're going to keep it rolling here. So Mel, Vegas, Decade, you're my other three. Drew, you're also going to be doing an NFT. I'm trying to get you all in. We're going to try to keep these to maybe like 7 minutes just because I want to get everyone in here. I know people have like schedules. So Mel, I'd like to go to you first, and then Decade, Vegas, if that's okay. If one of you guys needs to go before the other, DM me or something. I know we're running a little bit long here. We'll just try to keep these other ones, and especially because Mel and Vegas were just on with me. So I know the people who were on just before weren't on earlier. So Mel, coming to you for CCJ.
Yep. So I am a technical trader. CCJ came across because I was seeing some larger dark pool activity starting to come in. This was even before we even had the news with Russia, or right as soon as that hit with some of our geopolitical concerns. But just a name that you just don't typically see, the dark pool activity. So for those that don't know, dark pools are used by larger institutions to facilitate larger trades away from the exchange. So it's kind of like a private exchange. However, that volume must still be recorded to the consolidated tape. So you tend to see more of your hedge funds, larger institutions, and some of your larger trades come through on a dark pool exchange. And so when you start to see collection of, and especially repeats in a name, the first thing I'm doing is looking up that chart. And CCJ at the time, this was, I think, towards the end of February, right towards the end of February, when I had kind of pitched this one to Gav as my pick, just thought that it had potential, and it has made quite a move. And of course, now we're seeing more headlines about sanctions. The uranium plays, are getting quite a bit of momentum to the upside. And I know I'm going head to head with Apple, but when you also take in consideration some of the concerns that we have with rising interest rates and how this is going to impact households, and when they start to look at what is a necessity versus, what can they continue, everybody's that has an iPhone doesn't necessarily need to replace the one that they have. I mean, they've got, they're good products. However, that's kind of been Apple's edge, is that there's always, repeat buys anytime there's a new model, trying to get everybody to buy a new model. And this may be the year that they come against some of that growth, just if there's more concerns with regular households getting squeezed. And so I think the market's definitely telling us, and that's where we've got relative strength in a lot of our materials or commodities, energy names, stuff that we need, especially as a country, not only individually. We're looking more away from the want versus what do we need. So I think there's still continued upside growth in some of these commodity names, specifically with CCJ. And even when you go to even take it out to a monthly chart, technically we've broken out of a downtrend wedge to the upside. We're just made new highs, and that's going all the way back to December 2011. So you've got a bit of a base that's been building, and even looking at this chart, you've got that volume increasing, and that volume is usually institutional footprints telling us, this supply is going into strong hands. Oftentimes you'll see those released later on 13G filings by the institutions and hedge funds that are later telling you that they picked up positions, but I feel like we get the advantage of knowing them and when they're doing it beforehand, following some of the money flow that we're seeing in the dark pool. But besides that, you also have the options flow. And I think most of us know the options market, when you start to see very large positioning, that's why you get some of the moves like we had today. That momentum starts to come in. Hedge market makers need to also join in on that trade to stay protected, to take these larger option flow positions. And so I think with the activity we have, and they're going further dated, we're out to September, they're covering May, June. It's not just your shorter time frame that would indicate just a weekly pump and dump or momentum. I think you actually have some stronger money flow going in, and it's actually going further dated. So a lot still on the table with what we have with the current geopolitical situation. But if there are sanctions put in place, nobody knows how long the current situation will last. This could be, a play that's active, for quite a few months. I think that the uranium names will continue to see some upside.
Yeah, so much going on in uranium, and I love that you're coming at it from a different, approach with the call volume and everything else that's going on around it. It's a super interesting industry. I'm excited to see how it does. Right, we got the underdog Cinderella story. We've seen it possible in the tournament itself. Right, the upsets happen, and I'm excited to see if it happens tonight, or well, should I say, next week. Stock market news. Any questions there on CCJ?
Not a question. Sorry, I had to get back to the thing. Not a question. Just two statements. One, first of all, Mel, fantastic Twitter account. You should definitely check her out. Give her a follow. Posting fantastic things. And with that being said, I am backing Apple, and she's about to get a first round exit.
Ooh.
Oh, so it starts now?
I guess so.
It is on.
It's a hard one. I know for, the longer accounts, but I think, stock market news, you've also got to consider if we start to see a little, some households start to get squeezed, your darling may not be your darling anymore. And you may need to be looking at some uranium. I'm really bad at this.
She's trying.
I tried. That's all I got.
I like it. Awesome, Mel. Mel, thank you so much for doing a bunch of spaces today with us. Excited to chat with you more this week.
Love it. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Okay. Great pitch, CCJ. Check it out. Uranium's going ham right now. And Mel had some really great picks last week. We just finished up our actual stocks picking space. Mel was our winner of our stock picking space. She picked stocks last week that returned. She picked AFRM, returned 45%, I think, as well as three other stocks that all returned about 8% in a freaking week. So click on her profile. You won't be mad. All right, Tech Investor Colin, appreciate your patience, my guy. Excited to hear from you again. I know I asked you to pitch kind of like a crypto / node tonight, so excited to hear from you on that. And then maybe we'll get a couple minutes on your stock or your ETF as well.
Yeah, I can hit both in a good amount of time. So yeah, starting with I'll start with the ETF because that's kind of what. So my ETF, I kind of cheated the system and went with VOO. I just love the ETF. That's what I'm buying. Like in my own portfolio, that's basically all I'm buying with the majority of my money right now, which is the S&P 500. You can't go wrong with the S&P 500 over any 20-year time frame since the 1970s. So from for example, 1970 to 1990, 1971 to 1991. So any 20-year time frame, the S&P 500 has not had a negative return. And so in terms of investment, it's historically been a really, really solid investment. But in terms of the market and the market madness, it is just the grower that is going to be there, tried and true. And, I think that's why I picked it. The S&P 500 is the Michael Jordan of the stock market. It's the greatest of all time. So that is my one brief little pitch for VOO. I'm sure I'll be on to talk more about it specifically. But if you see that when the voting opens, I'll be plugging VOO by putting a lot of money in VOO. Stock market news, you have a question? Or is your hand up? You can talk if you want.
Yeah, no, I actually did have a question for you. I want to ask in this concept, like VOO and SPY, same thing. One has lower fees, one has higher fees. One is more popular on Twitter, and it's not the one with lower fees. I just wanted to know if there was any insights into that. Is it just like it's just the OG? It's that's SPY. That's what it is, or is there anything to it?
I mean, from my understanding, the reason a lot of people talk about SPY on Twitter and on social media is because it's the traders S&P 500 ETF. It's more trader friendly, and a lot of people on social media tend to talk more. Not like that. There are long term investors, and a lot of them that buy VOO. It's they're both massive ETFs, but in terms of trading and what is usually talked about on social media, is a little bit more trading, or at least it's talked about and posted about a lot more. And so that is why you see in my opinion, why you see SPY on your timeline more than you see VOO. But in terms of, buy and holding, there's really no reason to buy and hold SPY over VOO because you're saving, it's minimal fees, but they do add up over time. So that's kind of why, in my opinion, you see SPY more on the timeline. It's just because of trading. You're not going to tweet, I just bought VOO. And then 2 minutes later, it'd be like, I just sold VOO, right? Or, I just put an option. There's just the trader is going to go for SPY for a lot of reasons. That's kind of why you see that more on your timeline. But okay, cool. Yeah. So real briefly, I'll talk about, so if you follow me, you know that I have a lot of my money in VOO, a lot of my money in the stock market, but I have been dabbling in crypto. Crypto, but more specifically crypto nodes. And one crypto node, now I'm doing air quotes here because these aren't real nodes, but they are crypto node projects. It's just the term they use, is a new project that actually had their pre-sale today. Their public is tomorrow. Their public launch is tomorrow, but it's called Horde, HORDE. And basically this is a node project, just like your Strongs, how it's ran, just like your Strongs, just like your Thors. Those kind of ran on Ponzi-nomics. Does not mean Ponzi scheme, but is ran on Ponzi-nomics, how it works. But basically, this new project is what they're doing that's different than a lot of, and I don't want to get into the weeds of it. Actually, tomorrow at 8:30 Central AM, I'm going to be posting a free guide on crypto nodes. So if you follow me tomorrow morning, basically 13 and a half hours from now, I'll be putting that tweet out. It's like a 10-minute video. But basically how this project differs from a lot of the other ones is they have what is called decay model. So a lot of these projects, what happens is when you mint a node or create a node in these projects, you get paid out in rewards for as long as that project lives, which is fine, but that really hurts sustainability. And it hurts with a lot of new investors coming in terms of, a lot, depending on if you're compounding or whatever, you can eat into the sustainability. This project says, we're not going to give you lifetime rewards. And I do air quotes because if you've been in the node space, lifetime does not really mean lifetime, but that's just what they say. But this project is saying, we're not doing that. What we're going to do is after a 300% return on your money in a year, which again, if you're a stock people, that sounds crazy. I know it does. Just don't. At first I was like, that's a scam. But you got to just understand it's DeFi. These things are crazy. There's numbers that are really crazy thrown out there. But 300% return on your money. And then your node essentially disappears. It decays, it expires. So this project does a little bit differently, where you're going to get that 300% ROI or just return on your tokens. And then your model, the decay model, the plot of land, the node, it expires. Now a caveat there, if you're like, wow, that kind of sounds awesome. 300% return on your money doesn't mean, 300% on your dollar amount, or in this case, you're buying with Binance on the Binance network, on the smart chain. But what it means is your 300% return on the token amount. Now, with that being said, and I talk about this a lot in my free guide, is the token price fluctuates too. So if you buy in, and it's crypto, so it's one day the price of the token could be $10, and the next day it could be $5, or vice versa, go up 50% or 80%, whatever. It's just how crypto is. Is you're getting return of token, not return of dollar amount. So, but I know that was probably a lot. If you never understood that, you're probably like, what the heck is this guy talking about? That's why I do this free guide, because it's super interesting space, super risky, very, very risky, very, very, very risky, so much risky that I put less than 5%, 8% of my money in this stuff. Very, very risky. But yeah, that's kind of, I know that was probably, again, I was probably like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Or so DM me if you have questions about it, or, like I said, tomorrow morning, about 13 and a half hours from now, I'm putting out a free guide. Well, I'll send it to you through DM. But that's a project I'm really excited about. Like I said, it just launched today. It's called Horde, HORDE. It's just something new in this node space. So if you're in the node space, they probably all, a lot of these projects now just sound the same. But I'm trying to see I want to see things that are doing new things, different things. And so that's something this project is doing, is something new, something different with this decay model. So hope that was helpful for those out there that know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, my apologies. And maybe, we can do a space on this stuff more in depth. But yeah, hope that was kind of helpful. Hope that was in depth enough for the time.
Yeah, dude, that was perfect. Definitely looking forward to that. That crypto package coming out. Everybody, if you're interested in nodes and crypto, Colin, Decade Investor, fantastic follow. I recommend just go ahead and throw in the follow, because you'll see this stuff on his timeline. Then when it comes out, make life easy for yourselves. Okay. Also, wanted to just talk with you about VOO for a second. VOO got a lot of love. Earlier spaces, people had it blowing by XLE. I had it. A lot of people had it kind of going into the third and then into the Sweet 16, and then it kind of got second guessed. But it feels like it has a route. To at least the Sweet 16, and then certainly onward from there. If you want to share out your bracket at any point, I'm happy to retweet that.
Yeah, man. I think that, the problem is with VOO, it's one of those things where it's like, it's the, like, in my opinion, the GOAT, right? It's up there. It's the Michael Jordans or LeBrons, depending on who you're talking to. Some people say one or the other, but the market madness is not necessarily what is the GOAT. It's more about, the sentiment and what the vote and what the people say. And so he's going to come against, it'll go deep, in my opinion, into the bracket, but it's going to go against, people like, or different stocks or ETFs like QQQ, right? QQQ versus VOO. Most people just know or talk about QQQ more than VOO. So there'll be times, and I believe it'll make it that far and maybe even beat VOO. I would love to see VOO versus SPY, in the, what would that be, this Elite 8. So we'll see. But yeah, I hope that people understand how great VOO is. And I would love to see a VOO SPY matchup. I would think that would be, you would have the long-term money Twitter versus the trader money Twitter. And just, that would be, that'd be really awesome to see. And I think it could happen. It's just got to, both of those assets kind of, have to take care of business first. But I hope to see VOO make it very, very far. And yeah, I'll be doing my bracket, and y'all can probably guess who I'll have as winning it all, because I believe in the GOAT.
Love it, man. Appreciate you being on. Always a good time. Shout out Decade Investor. Love to see it. Okay. We're going to go to Vegas next, but before we do that, I just want to say hi real quick. What's up, Dutch?
Yo, I love how you always find a space for me, Wolf. IRL best friends, dog. How you doing?
My guy, my middle school buddy. What's up?
Yo, guys, just so you know, and I'm no plug or nothing, believe me, Acid Dash is my favorite app. It bothers me sometimes when I got some down days. It's not got too much notification power. I got to learn how to tone it down sometimes. I already took off Yahoo Finance off my phone because I can't see those dips. But Acid Dash, man, I really respect the grind. The app is top quality, bro.
Yo, really appreciate that. Thanks a bunch.